Let's talk about something uncomfortable today, or at least something that I find fully uncomfortable, and I feel like in our culture is a very uncomfortable thing to experience. And it may not be one that we may think of right away. It's being. Allowing ourselves just to be. Being as in B-E-I-N-G. Being. Not doing, not acting, not saying, not thinking, just being. Yeah, let's dive into that. Let's explore it. Thank you for being here. I'm Jamie Comer. This is the Consciously Connected podcast, your space for connecting with what matters to you most. And that is unique to you. This is a place for tuning inward, for showing up fully and connecting deeply. I imagine ourselves right now in a bit of a campfire space. Even though, yes, I usually take you outside in the videos or in different places, we're not around a campfire. I still envision that wherever we are. And today I'm actually indoors in my apartment in Syros, Greece. I'm here with my family for 3 months. And I feel like I'm cheating a little bit having this indoors with you because it's my intention to have it outdoors every time I film it. But I've been doing a lot of being lately, and I really need to let myself just be here, give myself permission. I've been tuning inward a bit more the past couple weeks. It's been kind of one of those hermit feelings where you just need some quiet space, connection with nature, and being outside is a little more stimulating right now. And I needed to give myself permission. So thanks for dancing with me with this one. I did bring you a plant and a little view of the outdoors, so I hope that helps. So what are we speaking about when we're talking about being? Well, let's look at the opposite of that a little bit first. When we go into a conversation with someone for the first time, we might hear, oh, what do you do? Or to be more specific, someone might say, oh, what do you do for work? It's kind of a common topic we hear. Common thing someone asks. I like to answer it now, though. When someone says, what do you do? I just like to put out all sorts of things. I'm like, do? What do you mean do? Like, I like to dance. I like to paint. Like, I'm not assuming it's about work because that's not what they asked. We also hear like doing. There's this emphasis on doing. Like, when we see our friends, someone might ask, oh, how are you doing? Oh, what were you up to today? Oh, what's going on this weekend? It's like there's a conversation around action. And particularly, I know around transition work, there's action talk. I mean, we're going through transition, change. It's like constant action, or it seems like it. Yet it's in these moments when we're especially feeling a lot of change. For example, like the pandemic time. And now here we are, and what's new change in your life, wherever you are in your life. This is really actually a time of being too. There's so much power in it. And that's what the phrase tuning inward is really about too. I mean, that's what consciously connecting with what matters to you most is about being more. But how do we do it? And why do we not do it? And what are the benefits of doing it? Doing it meaning being. Well, the challenges of being, what stops us from it, is going to be unique for each of us. I have a feeling, though, there's some general themes. And let's say, for example, our life, our daily life. Especially now, we have notifications, we have a phone, we have nearby things that we are on call for. The people in our lives can contact us more easily. Social media or whatever notifications we have open and available on our phone can contact us. And especially if we have our phone on or on vibrate, the sound, we're going to hear that. So the idea of being without distraction or stimuli is harder. Depending on how we've set up our lives or what we think our lives have to look like as parents, as people in business, as a student, as a sports person, whatever our circumstance or kind of like our identity is around, that may dictate how much we feel like we're giving ourselves time to be or not. Two, do we feel like we have to be busy? Because otherwise we're not productive. And if we're not productive, that means something. Is there a judgment there? We could go deep into that one for sure. I know for me, the idea of just being and not thinking I have to be busy or doing something to earn money or doing something to, like, say by the end of the day I did something productive is hard. It's a challenge. Our culture rewards productivity, or has at least, compared to effort, or, our state of mind, our state of well-being. We're not always rewarded for that per se, even though we may, say it's important, but are we, really, is that valued? How is that valued? How is that celebrated? These are some of the challenges, the stimulation in our world. And I feel like as a parent, that stimulation just gets louder, or at least there's more potential stimulation. I feel like it's a practice and a fun journey to go on about still bringing peace and calm when there's two boys running around in the house or apartment in this case. So there are some things that can stop us from being, but there's something even deeper than the outside stimuli. The outside stimuli may stop us from being, but what I find, for me at least, the most challenging thing, and especially when you're moving through transitions and changes, or you're exploring kind of these bigger questions in your life, anything around your identity, around who you are, or what your next steps are. Am I on the right path? What's the next step for my career? How do I live more in alignment for myself, or prioritize what's most important to me and my family? All those questions. I think what's actually the hardest part about allowing ourselves to be is actually what's going on inside of us. Because when we're being, and to be more clear, being, I mean, that could look like sitting still in silence and just listening, tuning inward. It could be a guided visualization, which is still technically doing something, but it's that practice at least of listening and tuning inward. There's also a component of accepting whatever is happening, accepting all the feelings, accepting all the emotions, accepting our outside circumstances. So being, I feel like, doesn't specifically mean we have to be still in our body, but I think that is a beautiful way to, I feel like, to practice or start exploring that practice of being. And so I find one of the biggest challenges, though, is what's going on inside of us, our inner landscape, your inner landscape, your inner world, your thoughts, your emotions, your fears, your dreams, all the thoughts, and the energy, the frequency of them. Frequency as in, are they coming from a high frequency where they're like, really, I pause on saying optimistic, positive, because I feel like there's positive and negative, and there's only two there. It doesn't feel like it's a full spectrum. It doesn't really honor the full spectrum, and there's a little bit of a judgment to positive and negative. So I'm going to refrain from saying that, but a higher frequency of like love and acceptance and gratitude, compared to a lower frequency of thoughts that we may be having of doubt and fear and worry and resentment and jealousy and shame. And I feel like when we pause the distractions outside of us, or willingly create a little bit of a boundary for ourselves too, so we can listen and tune inward, those, by being by ourselves, being alone, for example, listening to all that, the particular, especially like the low frequency thoughts in our head can keep us, I know for me, from being. For example, I know that I have some big emotions to feel, but I don't want to sit and feel them and be. When I start to eat fast, when I start to eat a lot of food, and particularly sweet food that I don't need, or I jump from one conversation to another and I look on my phone and I scroll and I go this to that, to that, to that. If that's happening, I know that there's something happening inside of me. Like there's like these telltale signs now that I've kind of pinpointed. I'm like, okay, Jamie, you're skipping over something inside of you. What's going on? I wonder what yours are. What your clues, if you will, for yourself. Little messages saying, you may be skipping over something right now because the idea of being still and really listening to what you're feeling in this moment may feel uncomfortable. So you can either keep jumping over this thing by doing this distraction, or you can listen and feel. Eee! I know. So I wonder what yours are, those little signs. Yep. We got a lot of them. I do. Who am I to say anybody else does? But I know I do. And so we're exploring the challenges of being. What is the benefit of them? Why do we even want to stop and pause and listen? Why do we want to let go of that idea, at least for a little bit, of productivity and performance is top notch and we have to do that. And we always have to be doing something. And taking a nap is lazy. And like anything else that we may tell ourselves that or sitting and watching the water and the sea for an hour is not okay. Like whatever ideas come up for you, things that you love to do maybe that you may stop yourself from doing. Why is it worth it to do it? To be. I feel like that there's a harmony in the body, a harmony in the body between doing and being, and not just those two though, but also feeling, allowing ourselves to feel what we're experiencing. And it's almost like this beautiful cycle or trifecta that can kind of reverse and change depending on what we're doing. But it can become very uneven if we're just doing. I mean, we can think of in terms of burnout, overwhelm, stress, mental health concerns. Those exist more when we're more in the doing phase and less of the feeling and being phase, right? Or spaces. So allowing ourselves to be literally calms our nervous system, allows us to process our emotions, process what we're feeling so they don't store and stay in our body and impact our health, because they would, impact our digestive system, impact our ability to recover, and impact our immune system. Processing what we're feeling, processing our emotions, being allows us to go into that rest and digest space and allows our body to recover more easily. So whether you're an active person or you want to recover, meaning just literally daily detoxing any toxins from the body or pathogens, or being able to think more clearly and soundly and feeling more just in tune with yourself. So I'm wondering how you're feeling at this point about being. I wonder what your relationship is with being. For example, if I say, when you think about being, what do you think of? What words come to mind? And it's totally okay if there's judgments, if there's if you think it's right or wrong or anything, it's totally fine. Whatever you're thinking is okay. That's part of being, is the acceptance of whatever we're feeling is okay. That space is okay. Now, playing with a little bit of imagery and metaphors, as we always do in each session, I guess it's a session, in each episode, is, or with visualization. When you think of, let's think of the three kind of pieces to, I think of of being human. I know there's more to it, but doing, feeling, and being. To be clear, feeling is about processing what you're experiencing. Like say after you do something, after you go run a race, you sit and pause and you're thinking about how you feel about it. Feeling could also be in the moment while you're running, how you feel about it. Being is allowing yourself to sit and process whatever comes up while you sit and just rest. Allow yourself to be, or allow yourself to sit and watch the sunrise. Something of that sort. I'm using the sitting as example as being, but remember, being doesn't mean you have to sit still per se. Maybe you're walking in the forest even. When you think of these three things, let's focus on being. What visual comes to mind for you? When you think of being, what visual comes to mind for you? If you put it in a visual. For me, let's see, I think of I think of what I did earlier today, actually. And this is an example of not like sitting still per se, but I went to the sea, to the water, the Mediterranean Sea, and I was feeling big feelings earlier, just lots of emotions. And as much as I wanted to try to, fix them or find like a source to them, I also needed to let go and just let myself feel it and express it. So I went to the sea, I took off my shoes, I went in the water and let my feet just be in the water, which is really healing and just centering and grounding for me. And I let myself talk. I just talked like I was talking to the sea, like I was just expressing my own thoughts to no one in particular, but just for myself. I was doing it for me, it wasn't for anybody else. And that to me was being, because I was in full acceptance in that moment of what I was feeling. I was in full acceptance of me just being in a state of lots of emotions, and which felt heavy. At the same time, it felt very freeing because I was actually allowing myself to feel them. Now, how about doing? What comes to mind for you as a visual when you think about doing? Give that a moment. I'm wondering what comes up for you. To share with you what comes up for me is I think of me on a computer in an office area, or like a kind of just a simple space, and just like on my computer and writing emails and then designing my website and like preparing newsletters, and was like doing and like very productive oriented. And in a way, this connects with my relationship with doing, and that's why we use the visuals, so you can just explore your relationship with this topic in your own way. So, for example, my relationship with doing is still feels productive related. Like I have to be doing stuff at a quick pace, or at a very like there's a very specific outcome I get out of it, or there's a list of things I did, and I don't particularly love that idea. And that's something for me to explore. For example, my art of doing. So I'm curious what came up for you. And just to play with this one, even though we barely touched on it, I'm curious what comes up for you when you think about feeling. So this is the part of just acknowledging that you're feeling something, or giving yourself a moment to reflect on something. So another example of like feeling might be, while I'm typing all the stuff, doing the work on the computer, pausing, it requires a pause, and saying, how do I actually feel in this moment? How does my body feel in this moment? How do I feel in this moment while I'm doing this? Am I having fun, or could I make this a little more aligned for me? That's kind of the feeling space. So when you think of a visual for feeling, what comes to mind for you? I'll sit and pause and think for myself as well. I hope these visuals are helpful, and I hope my examples are helpful just to give context or ideas. I kind of see like a yellow light in the US. There's lights of green means go, and yellow. I mean, I know that these lights are elsewhere, but just in case if lights are not a normal thing where you are, or for different type of light style. The yellow is like slow down, it's going to turn red soon, and then a red light. And so the yellow is almost like preparing, hey, pause, like it's time to slow down, to let me know to sit and feel for a moment, to check in with it. Kind of the art of reflection, and a reminder to reflect, and how important that is. Sometimes we need that little reminder space. Okay, so we really dove into you could call it the art of being, or at least exploring being with less, say, hopefully with less guilt or less attachment to an outcome. And I'm really curious now, kind of pulling this conversation back. If you look at it full, big picture about your life now about being, where do you feel like you could bring in, where do you want to? Because that's what's most important, really. So you actually want, if you'd want to do this or not, where do you want to bring more being into your life? Maybe it's a particular time of the day, or maybe it's after a certain activity. Here's an example. I was speaking with a friend here, and we were helping each other be more accountable for our own kind of meditation time. And mine was like this open meditation. Like, I just want to be able to sit and pause and be still in the middle of the day. And I found there's a little like practice for me that works really well. Like after I go on a hike, after I do a long stint of something, it could be work related to anything that I do, especially that's social or interactive or that requires me that I'm talking with people, or a coaching call, that I give myself 5 minutes at least of silence afterwards, where I'm not doing anything. And I'm just sitting and I'm letting my body process that experience of whatever it was. Sometimes tears come up just because there was just a welling of emotions that I didn't really let myself feel in that moment, or I didn't notice, or just as an expression of my body that needed to express. Sometimes it's just silence, and sometimes I get a clear action step that I'm like, oh yeah, now that I've had this pausing moment, I feel a little more calm and I know exactly what to do next. So I'm curious for you, where would you like to, if you feel called to, bring a moment of being for you into your daily life or your weekly life? Maybe write that down for yourself, put it on a sticky note, see it, tell someone, tell me. And furthermore, with that, what is important to you about doing that? If you're choosing to do this, playing around with being a little bit more, what is important to you about doing this? And what is your intention for yourself? What is your intention for yourself for doing this? I hope these questions offer just a moment to reflect and to be. And whatever comes up is okay, is perfect. Meaning there's never any right or wrong visual you should be having or answer you should be having. I mean, that's part of being. It's just allowing ourselves to be in this space and time. So thank you for being with me and being willing to explore this space with me. I know talking about this can feel uncomfortable because it might require us to pause and listen to let the feelings come out. I think someone once brought this example as the idea of being and feeling what you're feeling as like a pimple. It's like a big pimple with a white head, and it's like there, it's already there. It just needs to be released. Like we need to give ourselves a moment to sit and feel it because it's already there. So that's a beautiful visual, I know, but I felt like it was a pretty clear one. I appreciate you. Thank you for being here, for listening through this, on this journey, wherever you are in the world, whatever you are doing today, whatever your day is like. I honor you, I see you, I feel you. Thank you for being you. If this speaks to you, I invite you to sign up for my newsletter. That's the best way to stay connected, for me to share with you new offerings, and also for me to get feedback from you, because you're always welcome to reply to them and let me know your thoughts to some of the questions I ask in the newsletter. I also invite you to subscribe to the Consciously Connected podcast if you haven't already. You can watch it on YouTube, or you can watch it on to the various podcast platforms that you can find too. Thank you. Ciao, friends. See you next time.